Jillian Roberts didn't do anything halfway. When she loved fiercely. When she ran until the path ended. When she gave everything that she had. Born on July 13th, 1982, Jillian's early years took her from Idaho to California and then back again. She was like a boomerang. She came back, and she loved the Magic Valley. She discovered her calling as a nurse, and she became a CMA, and it was not just a profession, but a passion for her. She loved helping people. Her coworkers will tell you she greeted everyone with a smile or a hug. They'll tell you about the homemade baked goods that disappeared moments after she brought them in. They'll tell you that she had a gift of making people feel cared for. But if you really knew Jillian, you knew her through motion. She was solar powered, alive in the sunshine forever in the pursuit of the next adventure. She ran half marathons. She ran one with a broken foot. She once helped carry an injured runner to the finish line when she could have left her behind. She got up at 4 a.m., not because she had to, but because those quiet morning hours before the world woke up were hers alone. She'd push her little dogs in a stroller because they were so small they couldn't keep up with her. And she'd drive for hours just to bring her daughter cinnamon rolls. She'd plan entire trips around hiking trails and then hike them all. Why do people say hurtful things like, let's go hiking? That's crazy. But she loved hiking, and she loved taking her family on hikes. And they went with her with dogged determination. One of her daughters said that she was exceedingly beautiful. Another said she was always so put together. But Jillian's real beauty wasn't in her appearance. It was in her mother's heart. She called her girls Goosey and Baby Leopard. I'm not sure the genesis of those names. There must be something behind it. We would have to find out later. She packed notes in their luggage when they left for college. She left gift cards as surprises. She became an extra mom to the girls' friends, adopting them as her own. She also would adopt little grandmas that came into the clinic that they were at and try to snatch them. She was the kind of mother who would do anything, go anywhere, sacrifice everything for her daughters, and they knew it. Jillian loved the beach and the sun. She loved to cook and to bake and to entertain. She loved to shop. Sometimes a little too much. If you ask Jonathan, on their honeymoon, they were headed down to California, and they stopped for a night. I think it was at Reno, and she discovered shopping in Reno, and I think that ended up being the honeymoon as the shopping experience. So in my mind's eye, I see Jonathan standing outside in the hallway in the mall holding her purse while she's in there looking around, and he's growing a little more gray in his beard. But she loved shopping. She loved TJ Maxx. She loved Ross. She loved shopping. She loved shopping for shoes. She loved shopping for food. She loved shopping for clothes. She loved shopping. And so it was a unanimous testimony. Everybody in the family said that. She hated snakes with a passion. The one and only danger that would have been a danger to her daughters was if a snake came in the room. The girls were probably on their own at that point in time. And so just so you know, it's not because she didn't love you. She just hated snakes. And I admire that about her. She apparently has good sense. A snake caused a lot of trouble in the Garden of Eden. And so I think maybe she had an essence of wisdom there. She also hated the smell of campfires for some reason. She did not like it. And so, and really, as a result of that, camping with her was only if there was a cabin and there was running water that you could hit a shower. And she would make everybody, if they were camping, wash their feet before getting into bed. She was a clean freak and proud of it. She was driven, determined, hyper-focused. When Jillian locked onto something, she pursued it with dogged determination. Whether it was fitness, nursing, motherhood, or friendship, she gave it everything. One of her friends said this. She said, Jillian was a prayer warrior for me and my family, a friend wrote. She cared so much about what was going on in our lives and was always checking in and praying for us. And through it all, she radiated joy, even through battles, even through struggles, even through hard seasons that other people didn't know about. Jillian kept smiling, kept loving, and kept giving. Another friend said, I watched Jillian face battle after battle. Still, she radiated joy. And said, Jillian may never know all the lessons she taught me over the past 4 years or how much I treasured her friendship, but I am forever grateful. And then on December 29th, 2025, surrounded by her daughters, Kaylee and Madeline, and her husband, Jonathan, Jillian's race ended far too soon. She was only 43. Jillian had the most beautiful smile and the best laugh, a friend wrote. She filled the room with joy whenever she walked in. That joy was extinguished by a tragedy. It was transformed. Jillian is now in Jesus' loving arms, along with Nate, her beloved dog, the family members who've passed before her. The woman who ran so hard, loved so fiercely, gave so completely, has finally reached the finish line. And knowing Jillian, she's probably helping somebody else to get there too. Psalms, my father-in-law is here. I learned ministry from him. When I was yet a teenager, he would take me to the hospital to make hospital visits. And one of the verses that he would often use when he would go in and sit at somebody's bedside who was incredibly ill was this passage out of Psalms 46 and verse 1. God is our refuge and our strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore will not we fear, though the earth be removed, though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea. Boy, sometimes the world falls out from under you. You know, sometimes terra firma is not firma anymore. It shakes because there's an earthquake, a tsunami, a hurricane. There's a sudden destruction that's almost hard to fathom. And you just don't know how to wrap your mind around it. I mean, I have a friend who's 105 years old, and life's been very generous to him, and life feels so stingy here as it ends so quickly, so swiftly. One of the things I think that maybe we take away from this is not to take our friends and family for granted, because we don't know how long we have them. I mean, life is brief. It is a vapor that appears for a little time and then vanisheth away. It's like a tale that's told in the night. It's like a story that ends all too swiftly. Boy, love the people that are around you, because you don't know how long you have them here. Appreciate them, enjoy them, love them, tell them what you love about them. That's a powerful thing. So when the solid ground disappears underneath you, we can count on God. He's our strength in the midst of that. I've known this family since Jillian was young. She was, I think, a preteen when I first met the family, and now her daughters are college age, and that just boggles my mind to have known them over these years. And it's hard to make sense this side of heaven, the events that take place. One of the ladies that I read after a lot was Corrie ten Boom. She's passed away now. She was a survivor of the Nazi concentration camps, and she would speak to crowds all around the world about the lessons that she learned in Ravensbrück, where she lost her parents and her sister Bessie, and she was the sole survivor of the family that made it out. And she would travel and she would teach lessons, and she often used object lessons, and she would sit in the front of the building of the platform while others were doing the introductions and the things that they do, singing the songs. And she had a little cross-stitch thing that she kept with her, and she was working on that while everything was going on. And then it would become her turn to speak, and she would hold up the cross-stitch upside down, and she would ask them what it looked like. And inevitably, the answer, when somebody would give an answer, was a tangle of threads. It was a tangle of threads of odd colors and odd links, and it didn't seem to make any sense. And then she would turn it over, and she would show them a breathtaking pattern that was on the other side of it, a picture of something that was instantly recognizable and infinitely beautiful. And she would say that heaven will allow us to have the perspective on the things that we don't understand down here. There's a lot of confusing things, but heaven, I believe, will give us some kind of insight and hindsight that perhaps we don't have right now. At least I'm holding on to that. So the psalmist points us to a God who's our refuge and strength. Not sometimes, not eventually, but a very present help in the time of trouble. Present right here, right now, with you in this moment. A couple of thoughts that occur to me that I want to share with you, with the family, with Jonathan, the girls, and her immediate family as well. God meets us in our darkest valleys. The most famous chapter in the Old Testament is Psalms 23. The most famous verse in the New Testament is John 3:16. Listen to verse 4 of Psalm 23. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. He's not talking about if, he's talking about when you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and you will, and often you will go through it. So often it is heart-wrenching, but you need to know that in the midst of that valley, you find God there. There was a Scottish commentator, and when he was young, he worked in Glasgow, and he was only 12, and he lived in a village that was well outside of that. And how it was arranged was he would go and stay and work at a factory for 6 days. Then he would walk home for the Sabbath and spend it with his family. But he was terribly terrified because there was a gorge outside of the village that he lived in that was very narrow and very deep. And when the wind blew over the gorge, it made a howling noise. And all the locals felt like that it was haunted because it howled all the time. And at night, it was absolutely terrifying. And on his first week, as he went to walk there, he walked through it and past it, and it didn't bother him so much because it was daytime. The noises were there, but it was daytime. But on the way back, he'd worked a full shift at this factory, his sixth day of work, and he's making his way back, and darkness is falling, and he comes to this rift in the ground, and it's making the howling, haunting noise, and then he stands there for a while, terrified, not knowing what to do. And then he said he saw the head and shoulders of the greatest man he knew, his father, come up out of that rift in the ground, out of that valley. His father had come to walk home with him because he knew his son would be scared. Look, I know this is frightening. I know this is hard, but I want you to know that your Father's going to meet you here. He's going to walk with you through this. You're not going through this alone. Do you guys understand that? You're not alone. God is with you in the midst of this. I remember in the ICU watching as we were praying for God to raise her up, praying for God to bring life signs and consciousness and awareness and all the things that you hope for after an accident of that nature. And I watched person after person come and hold her hand and speak love to her and kiss her and rub her hands. And in my mind's eye, I can still see 2 daughters on each side, each of them holding her hand and just talking to her as you talk to your mother. And I thought, oh, they're holding her hand, but God's holding her heart. I want you girls to know something. When you let go of her hand, you didn't let her go into darkness. You let her go into light. You let her go into the Father's hands. And I'll tell you what I know about God. I don't know the disposition after we leave this place. What I do know is that I can trust God with her situation because God is too loving to ever be less than merciful, and He's too holy to be ever other than just, and the judge of all the earth will do right. There are none that will gainsay God. And so you let her go into God's presence, her Father, and He will do the right thing by her. You can let her into His hands. God's mercy reaches beyond our understanding. In Lamentations 3, it says this: "It is of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed, because His compassions fail not. They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness." The genesis of the old hymn comes from this passage in the Bible. Jeremiah, writing these words, doesn't write them from a hilltop. He writes them from the dark valley of desolation. Israel has been brought into captivity. They would be there for 7 decades in captivity. And in the midst of this total devastation, God's mercies are new every morning. God doesn't run out of mercy and grace. He has an amazing supply that you and I can draw from. And that's the truth of the gospel, is no matter what today's difficulties are, God has a mercy that is fresh for it. The older that I get, apart from God's mercy and grace, none of us can stand before a holy God. I've been a pastor for over 30 years. I've sat with people in their best moments and their worst. And here's what I've learned. The ground at the foot of the cross is absolutely level. We all come the same way. We'll all, if we get into heaven, we only get there by the mercy and grace of God. I don't care what your past is. I don't care what your circumstances are. The Bible, Galatians has been called the gospel of a heart set free. The Apostle Paul had come out of the legalistic, Judaistic mindset, and he would say in Galatians chapter 2, if righteousness came by works of the law, then Christ died in vain. If you could get there on your own, Jesus didn't have to die at 33 years of age. But because He died at 33 years of age, He offers grace and mercy to broken messes like me and you. I was writing some articles on the life of David, and last night I wrote these words. It's about God promising mercy to David. It says, "My mercy will I keep for him forevermore, and my covenant shall stand fast with him." Psalms 89:28. The Lord himself declares, "I will keep." The word keep means more than a passive maintenance. It carries a sense of actively guarding, carefully preserving, and faithfully watching over, like a shepherd who counts his sheep each night. God actively tends his covenant promises. What does that mean to us today? When loneliness whispers that we're forgotten, when failure suggests we've exhausted God's patience, when circumstances scream that we've been abandoned, this ancient promise speaks louder. My mercy will I keep. The covenant stands fast not because of our grip on God, but because of his grip on us. The same hands that actively kept David, raised Jesus from the dead, and upheld the universe by the word of his power, those same hands keep us in a world of broken promises, failed institutions. We have something better than guarantees or warranties that fall flat. We have the personal pledge of the eternal God, "I will keep." I want you to forgive me for my illustration, but I think you'll understand it. You had a big family, big family. Do you ever remember teaching the kids to roller skate? I taught my kids to roller skate, my little girls when they were tiny, and I liked skating. I thought skating was a lot of fun. It was the closest Baptists ever got to dancing. And so there's music and movement, so we were, because the Baptists, they had these weird sayings like a praying knee and a dancing foot don't grow on the same leg. And so it was the way I could get away with dancing is skating. And my little girls, I taught them how to skate, and they were little. They're probably this big, and I knew how to skate. They didn't know how to skate. Have you ever seen a kid that doesn't know how to skate? I mean, it's like they're doing the river dance. Their feet are moving all out from under them. But I wanted to make sure that they didn't get hurt in the process. And so I'm holding on to their hands. And so I'm skating along, and inevitably I've got two kids on both sides of me that are doing the river dance. They're trying everything they can to fall down, and I'm trying everything I can to hold them up. And it's kind of hard for me because I got two of them on each side, but I'm holding them up. And the image came to me of God doing that with me. I don't do so good sometimes in my walk with God. There are times that I've failed and fallen down. But I'm thankful that my walk with God doesn't depend on my grip on God. It depends on his grip on me. My girls' hands were too weak to be able to hold on to me strong enough to keep standing up. They couldn't keep their feet. But my grip on them was strong enough to hold them. Do you understand what I'm saying? God's grip of grace is amazing. Our hope rests in his finished work. For I am persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of God which is in Christ Jesus our Lord. He said, I'm persuaded. Nothing, not your worst day, not your best day, not your darkest struggles, not your biggest failure, not even death itself, can break God's grip on those that he loves. Adrian Rogers said this, and I think it's very appropriate. He said, Jesus did not come to make bad people good. He came to make dead people alive. We were dead in our trespasses and sins, and we had no ability to be able to make ourselves right with God, but because of his grace and mercy, he established that relationship so that we could enter into that. So as you gathered around her bed on that final day, and you didn't let go of her hand so that she would fall, you let go of her hand so that God could take it. We release our grip, and she fell into stronger hands. My hands are weak. Jesus' nail-scarred hands, they're infinitely strong. She's not in the valley anymore. She's not fighting anymore. She's not in pain anymore. She's finished her race. At this time, there's a video tribute, and then Pastor James is going to come and open it. Pastor James, you're one of only a handful of people that's been my pastor. And I just have to tell you how much I love you, and I love your ministry to this church and to this family. Thank you for being a good pastor to them. Thank you. And you'll come and lead us in prayer after this video tribute.